PSAUCE here, back at it again with another video. Today, we'll be talking about my 3D printer. As, if you guys remember this guy, this is the penguin I printed yesterday. And he's got his little stand now. But, today we'll be talking about the printer specifically. So, I've made this model, and then I just extruded it in this software, which allows me to make 3D printable models. And this is just the 500 Studios logo, and we're going to print this, and then it'll be a cool little thing that we can have. Alright, so, maybe you're wondering, well, how do you go from here to the printer? Well, it's quite simple, actually. So, the first step is to convert this model into an STL file. So the way you do that is, well, at least in the program I'm using, which is Fusion 360, the way you do that is you go over to the browser, which has all these different objects, but we're just focusing on this button right here. You're going to want to right-click that, and then it'll give you a bunch of different options, and you can say Save as STL. And then it'll pop over to this side, and it'll give you a bunch of options, and you can select, if you have multiple models, which ones you want to save, but we only have one, so we're going to select that one. And then you want to keep this format as binary. And then refinement, that just tells you how, basically models are made in triangles. You have, the way models are constructed is just in a series of triangles. And the higher the refinement, the smaller the triangles are, meaning the more high quality it's going to be more detailed. So we're going to keep it as high. And then you can click this if you want it to just automatically slice, but we're gonna do that in a bit, and I'll explain what that is later. But for now, we're just gonna click OK, and then it's gonna pop up, and then you just click Save under wherever you want. Okay, and we'll just click Save. Okay. And there we go. Alright, so the next step is we're going to open up our slicer software, which essentially takes the STL file that we downloaded from our 3D model and converts it into something that the printer can read. So 3D printers read what are called G-code files. And so what this does is it takes an STL file and just turns it into a G-code file so that the printer can read it. And what G-code files are, they basically cut the model into a bunch of different layers, and they tell the printer how many layers there should be, how thick they should be, how hot the nozzle should be, how hot the bed should be, that sort of stuff. And so essentially it just turns it into a format that the printer can read. So right now it's loading up Ultimator Kira, which is a free slicer program that is probably one of the best free slicer programs you can get, and it's really convenient and it works fine. So right now it's loading. Okay. And it should pop up any second now, and boom. Okay, so we're in. It's gonna load, and perfect. Alright, so it's giving you all these different options. I have mine set up to the very specific stuff I really want, but if you want, you can go to, just click that button to pop up the settings. But if you want to just have simple settings, I believe it's just you just press this recommended button, and then it just gives you basic settings, like how thick do you want the layer to be, how much infill you want, which is the measure of, the printer would want to print it hollow, because it saves as much plastic, but, because it saves as much plastic as possible, but then it has no structure to it, and it would just smash easily. So the infill tells it how much plastic it should put on the inside of the print so that it doesn't break. And support supports are so if there's anything that's printed at above a 60-degree angle, the printer might have a little bit of difficulty printing it, because the closer and closer you get to 90, the closer it's just printing on thin air, which is not good. And so what supports do is they create like a little support that prints along with the print, and it allows the printer to print on top of it, so that if you have extra, like if you have an overhang, then it can print on top of the thing. And then adhesion, well, it just basically changes the way so printers generally print a first few layers before actually printing the print to make sure that everything's set up well. And then there's a few different ways you can go about doing that, such as right now I have mine build plate adhesion to skirt. So essentially what that does is it just forms like a little line of plastic around the print to make sure that everything's adhering properly to the bed. But you could also still do like brims and rafts where it prints like a little layer on below the print to make sure that it's like actually sticking to the bed. But skirts are usually fine if you're not messing with too much difficulty. So anyway, let's get our file in here. So I'm going to go through my file folder, and I believe, yep. So we could have named it anything, but we named it Untitled because I didn't think of naming it anything. So there's our project. And you can see this is the size of my actual printer, because when you set things up, you have to select the size of your printer, and this is the size of my actual bed. So you can see it's rather enormous, but we don't need it to be this big. So what we're gonna do is click it. You might have to right click it. Sometimes it doesn't work, but normally you can just left click it. And then you have these options that you can do. So you can change the position on the bed. So by just using these arrows, like this. Sorry. Yeah, just use bright green to go, and then the red one to go that way. If it'll let me, which it won't. So we're just going to or what you can do, there, perfect, okay, fixed it. So what you can do is just type it in here, your Z, Y, and X position. You can change the scale of it, which is what we're going to do. We're going to make it, let's say 75%. So what this does, it just makes everything 75% smaller. So that it is, yeah, that looks good. It's not too big, and it should print relatively easily. You know what? Maybe, yeah, we'll scale it down. 50%. Yeah, 50. So what basically this makes it this is better because it's not too big and won't take too long to print. And you can change its rotation, so you can lay it flat like this. But if we do that, you have a bunch of, you see these red areas tell you how much overhang you have. And if you have that, then it'll just like flop and print in thin air and it won't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate it to be flat, if it'll let me. There we go. And I'll tell you, there. So we're going to rotate it to be flat so that there's no overhang, and it'll just print flat. And then we can mirror it, we can change the mesh type, which we don't need to, and then we can do support blockers. But those, yeah, those are complicated. So once you're ready, once you're done, you can also change like the temperature and stuff, but if you're just starting out, I'd recommend just sticking with this rather than going the custom stuff. You can change the name of it, I do believe. Or that just tells you the object list. So what we can do is we can click this button. This is the main button. It slices it. So it turns this STL file into a G-code file by just cutting it into layers. And the bigger the print, the longer it'll take to process. So we're gonna print it. That's weird. It's taking pretty long. Shouldn't, but making progress, and it should be done anytime now. Boom, 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 and there you go. It's gonna take 17 hours to print. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make it really small and change it to like 25% of the size. So now it's just that big. So it's not super big. If you go under here, it'll tell you the measurements. So this is okay, so it's 56.8 by 35.4 by 12.5 millimeters. So if we slice it now, it should take a lot less time to print. Now it'll only take 3 hours. But I just had an idea. You could scale it up back to 50, then just make the quality less good. See, right now we have super quality, which makes it 12 millimeters. 0.12 millimeters for each layer, but we can scale it back to standard quality. Just click keep, and then now it's going to reset everything back to standard quality, which means that it won't be, the layer height will be a lot thicker, meaning it won't be as good as, say, a 0.12 millimeter thickness. But since we're just printing a logo and it doesn't require any moving parts or anything, it's just a slab of plastic. Yeah. Still pretty long, so we're just gonna go back to, I don't know, 30. This is really just, this is to illustrate sort of trial and error. This is pretty long. Sorry, it's taking a while, but I'm just trying to get it to be short, but also big enough to appreciate it. So this is 3 hours and 33 minutes. So that should be good. Alright, so now I will move on to the next step, as I'm going to go get my SD card and I'll explain everything that goes along with that. So now I got the SD card. So it's literally just this little black SD card that I put into a USB thumb drive. And what that allows me to do is transfer files from this to the SD card, and I can put the SD card in my printer, which is down the hall, and print my piece. So what this does is, as soon as you pop it in, it gives you this button, which you can switch to save to file, or you can switch to save to removable thumb drive, which is that. So I'm going to press that button, and then if I go under my files and we go under the USB drive, see all these different G-code prints, but that one is the one we care about because that it basically just takes the name of the STL file that you had, puts it into a G-code file. So since ours was unsaved, then that's the name of it. Okay, so we're gonna exit out of that, and then remember, when you're ready, there was a blue eject button, but we took too long, so I didn't press it. So when you're ready to eject it, just click this button, and it'll just eject your thing. So now I can pull it out safely without damaging the SD card. Okay, so then we just have to go put this in, and I'm do a time lapse of it printing. Alright, so now we have the G-code file in here, and what we're gonna do, pull it out, pull out the SD card. We can turn on the printer. Just place the SD card in this slot. There you go. And then we have this menu. So this tells you what's the current temperature, what the temperature should be set to. Same here. And these two are always set to 0 if they're not being used. But because they can't go to freezing, then it's only going to get to room temperature, which is about 18 degrees, something like that. Either way, it fluctuates. So what you do is you just use this to navigate. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to prepare and click auto home. And so what that does is it moves the head like this where the nozzle is. See, it's right under there. It's going to move it all the way to this corner, this bottom corner, which is considered the origin, the 0, 0 point. This is where all prints start. So now that it's there and it's set, we can start to print. So we can go over here, we can go back, and you can see it doesn't register that we have to do an SD card, so we have to go underneath, and we have to click initiate SD card. And it scans, and then it realizes, hey, there's an SD card. Click from SD, and then there's our G-code file, as you can see. So you press it, and there you go, it should start heating. So this is the bed, and this is the nozzle. So you can see the nozzle hasn't been set yet, and that's just, I think, a glitch with my printer, because the G-code file tells it to be set at 200. So all we have to do is just go over to temp tune, and then just click control, temperature of the nozzle, and then just set it to 200. So now it should start heating up, and so these heat up. So the bed takes a while to heat up, and the nozzle does too, but it spends a lot less time heating up than the bed. And so now it's going to get ready, and as soon as it does, it'll start printing. So I'm going to set up a time lapse and then just show you how the printing process looks.
Randoms in my game, yo, 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 random. Okay. You think you're thick? Not as thick as Elastigirl. Dang, boy. Not as unicorn. Okay. Yeah, you all know band class is really over. Now we're walking into math class, rockin' loafers. Choke on my peanut butter sandwich. Too much peanut butter for you to handle. Drink on my G Fuel. Too much hype for you. Randoms in my game, yo, 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 random. Ooh, they call me Phil Swift because I pull it with a china plate, yo. Yeah, hold my glass, really rocked up. Hugging those chicks like it's yaks on the back. Eat my potato soup, then go shoot some hoops, yeah. Fruit, grain, cereal bars, applesauce flavored.
We just got done with the print. It's pretty late at night now, and it's been 3 hours and 34 minutes. A couple of notes about the time lapse. As you probably noticed, it was pretty far away. There's my setup for the time lapse. As you can see, I had to have my phone plugged in, just to make sure it wouldn't die. And because of that, I couldn't bring it any closer to the thing, so it was pretty far away, and you probably couldn't see that much. But hopefully, you got the gist of how the printer actually moves. And there was a part, probably about 30 seconds or so, where it was completely dark, and that was my bad, because I accidentally turned off the light to the room, because I forgot that I was recording. And so yeah, there was about 30 seconds where you couldn't see anything, but you didn't really miss much. It's just this same pattern printed a lot to make this thick. Okay, so we have the print, so all you have to do is take, for example, this, like a spatula, and just start pulling it off. Okay, I got it off, and then I can get this extra skirt plastic off and just chuck that. There you go. And so here is our stand. So this is our logo, and it's pretty cool. It's just 500 Studios, but hopefully gives you a good illustration of how my 3D printer works and how a lot of 3D printers work in general. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. But otherwise, make sure to like the video and subscribe to 500 Studios for more videos like this. Yeah? Okay. I'll see you guys all later.